This is the one. This is the dream project.
Bruce, you're pushing the car too hard. It's not meant to take it.
I'll coax it.
Bruce!
Husband and wife found murdered in their sleep this morning.
Death threats against soon-to-retire Commissioner James Gordon.
It's a pretty big, sprawling story. We knew early on that if we were going to do it, that we would really need a little bit of extra room.
These are scary times, and the mutants, they're not like the usual street crooks.
It's such a great and rich work to begin with, plus so beloved.
One of the top 3 superhero tales I've ever read. Could be the best.
Murder rates on the city's subways have reached an all-time high.
Hideous slaying of a group of nuns last night.
Crime is at a record high in Gotham.
Kidnapping and murdering young children, a line even the mutants hadn't crossed until now.
Take the guns! Take the bombs! Storm police headquarters! And kill! And kill! Gotham City belongs to the mutants.
The book came out in '86, I was 10. It just blew my mind totally. Like, I've never seen a reimagining of a superhero like that.
Dark Knight specifically influenced every single Batman that has come since.
The Dark Knight Returns, we've separated into 2 parts. We have a part 1 and we have a part 2.
In part 1, we start with Bruce Wayne having been retired for 10 years. And we see the events that lead to him reemerging as Batman.
We see Gotham at its worst. It's just a city without any control.
We meet Bruce Wayne at the beginning. He's not a healthy man. He's a man who's drinking himself to death, engaging in deliberately reckless behavior, looking for a good death, looking for a nice moment to go out.
Batman's inside wanting to get out, and he's, going about his business and being basically pretty miserable, being just plain old Bruce Wayne.
People have given up, Jim. They're hiding.
He talks to Gordon and sees what the city has become without him. He walks the streets and sees the apathy and the crime and the resignation of the people in the city. It slowly drives him to this point where he can't take it anymore.
4 killed in a senseless attack.
The assault and mutilation.
The terror that poor little boy must have felt.
You try to hold me back, but you're weak. The time has come.
The last straw, the moment where the twig snaps, is Harvey Dent disappearing from Arkham.
The one-time district attorney, later known as Two-Face, immediately evaded supervision upon his release earlier today from the Arkham home.
Two-Face supposedly is cured. His face is fixed. But inside, he's still Two-Face. He's still got this uncontrollable rage.
What? I played along as long as I could, while you and the docs had your joke.
You can fix Harvey's face, but you can't fix what was inside. And once the bad side of Harvey came out, it stayed on top.
At least both sides match now, right? Look at me and have your laugh.
Gotham itself has kind of regressed and been taken over by this gang called the Mutants.
Now my mutant army is coming to storm Gotham City.
They are rioting and looting, and they're absolutely in control of the city.
Slice and dice. Show them we're nasty.
The mutant leader represents a more primal kind of evil than Batman has seen before.
Face me, fool, and I will kill you. I will show you who ruled Gotham City.
To quote Michael Caine from one of the Batman movies, some people just want to see the world burn.
The mutant leader might be the blunt hammer, but Batman is the scalpel. Batman is fighting with precision.
You don't get it, son. This isn't a mud hole. It's an operating table. And I'm the surgeon.
Simultaneously, there's this young girl, Carrie. She's just a kid, but she happens to take on the persona of Robin.
What's your name?
Carrie Kelly. Robin.
Some of the images in the comic and some of the ideas in the comic, I think, were designed deliberately to shock.
The female Robin was startling in its day. She looked different. She had this inviting punk look.
In a situation where the Batman, who really isn't in shape, needs help, she steps in and saves his life.
She's perfect, smart, brave. With her help, I can end the mutant problem once and for all.
As far as seeing a girl in the Robin costume, I think it's a better costume for a girl, personally.
This book, among its many layers of what was great about it, wasn't just groundbreaking in terms of the story and the handling of Batman, which it completely blew that apart, but even its style, even the layout of the book and the handling of panels.
In the comic book, a lot of times, in the middle of an action sequence, they would just cut to, you know, a newscast or a news broadcast, or cut to a man on the street being interviewed.
Batman, I think he's A-okay. He's kicking all the right butts, beating the heads that need beating. You know what I mean? I like to see him show up for my landlord next.
News is so important in these stories. The news, the press, it's all so trashy. It's all about the violence of what's going on.
Hideous slaying of a group of nuns last night, the latest in a brutal crime spree attributed to the mutant gang.
In this particular world that exists, there is no good news. It's all bad, and that's all they're reporting on. And it's all sensationalism. And I'm afraid we are going toward that in our own world right now.
One of the things that makes Dark Knight Returns stand the test of time was that it's really a political and social statement about, you know, the views of a lot of the population at the time.
It makes me sick to see such a violation of people's rights. We have to strive to reintegrate the disenfranchised into society, not revel in their punishment.
Everything that's happened in Batman since is in the shadow of these books. Themes of vigilantism, themes of the role of the individual in society, questions about the power of government and where government is overstepping or where government is powerless to operate.
Where are the principles that make this the noblest country in the world?
It's very heavy. I don't think anybody really tried to put as much, you know, political commentary or social commentary into their work.
It simultaneously covers some incredibly heavy things, some very dark stuff, some heavy violence, but is also at the same time peppered with absurdity, with parody. In fact, I think it's part of what Miller is getting at, that the world is absurd.
One moment, I've just been handed this. Commissioner James Gordon has been shot and killed. Wait, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Commissioner Gordon has shot and killed a 17-year-old mutant.
Because he did this during the 80s, it's kind of that 80s in-your-face, kind of like no apologies type of kind of storytelling, you know?
The action sequences leapt off the page, and so that made, you know, my job a little easier. I had to find ways to maybe, you know, fill in the spaces a little bit, but there were great set pieces already here.
The palette is very muted. If there's one thing that Frank doesn't do, there's no bright colors. I mean, Gotham is dirty, it's grungy, it's a lot of grays.
It's sketchier than what DC Comics looked like at the time.
I wanted to make sure that it looked like the comic book as much as possible. From the character designs to the props, it all looked like it was in that Frank Miller style.
I keep a wish list of actors that I want to work with. And I'm very happy to say that for this project, I was able to sort of check off a couple of actors that I was able to get where their schedules worked. There was the right piece for them, the right role, and it all came together. And one of them is Peter Weller, who's just this remarkable actor.
Two-Face has already moved on. He was smart enough to know I'd track him. You weren't. Batman starts off as a grouch, and he's cranky that he's aging, he's cranky that he's lost friends, he's cranky that people have died on him, but you'll stay scared, won't you, punk?
Someone that I've admired for years and years is an actor named David Selby.
That rattled around in my head for days.
Gordon is getting ready to retire. Gordon is older than many of the different ways we've portrayed him, so David Selby was a beautiful choice.
No, I came to say goodbye. Jim's on the verge of retiring. He's out of this. But I suspect that it's very, retirement's much more difficult for him. This is our neighborhood, our homes. We're better than this.
To have a female Robin is such an interesting twist on the story. And casting it was difficult because it had to be a kid who was kind of tough and street smart and yet some kind of vulnerability that we care about her well-being.
Boss, I'm trying to get the plan here. I mean, you gonna die tonight or what? Carrie is the new Robin, and Batman sort of takes her under his wing and mentors her, and since he's like the older superhero, he's teaching her kind of the ways of how to be cool and be Robin and, you know, be a superhero.
Ugh, reality check, Michelle? It was definitely a man. But he had to be like 12 feet tall.
Someone else that I was lucky to get, who I've worked with for many years and just hasn't been available because he's been so busy, is Michael McKean.
I'm glad you asked that, Ted. Picture the public psyche as a vast, moist membrane.
Dr. Walper is a very, very good shrink, if you ask him.
Batman has struck this membrane a vicious blow, and it has recoiled.
He's the expert in the room. And if he tells you something is so, he expects you to believe it.
In other words, the real villain here is Batman.
The Dark Knight Returns had such an amazing impact, not just on the world of comics, but beyond the world of comics.
There's so much to this project. It was so important historically in comics.
You know, it made the bestseller list. It was getting reviewed in like Rolling Stone magazine.
It's such a rich literary work. I mean, it really is. It has the complexity of a novel.
I mean, I actually, if I look back on it, I owe my entire animation career pretty much to, you know, the success of Dark Knight.
Because of his re-emergence into this kind of world without superheroes, it also has a negative side. It brings back old rivalries, which you'll see in part 2.